Context needed before we get to the core issue. My dad raised me until I was 14. My mother didn't want to be a parent, and she left my dad and me while I was still a baby. She didn't pay her child support payments, and she quit jobs left and right so she didn't have to. She even went to jail twice for failure to pay, and the every other weekend parenting time she was given by the courts despite her lack of parenting me, she rarely, if ever, took. She never took the full weekend anyway. She met her husband when I was 6. From the age of 6, when my mother and her husband met, to the age of 14, when I lost my dad, I saw my mother and her husband 5 times. After my father died, I lived with my uncles. My mother wasn't interested in taking me, though her husband did. Still, my uncles were people who wanted me and who I had a close and loving relationship with. My mother didn't take any parenting time after I lost my dad. She and her husband had 3 kids together. Her husband attempted to insert himself into my life during Father's Day activities, and he'd asked me to live with them. Still, I mostly ignored all contact with him. He once attempted to tell me I was missing out and blame my dad for that. I shut him down firmly and harshly. I told him he had no right to speak about my dad, who was better than his wife would ever be. My mother's extended family, parents, siblings, etc., were always part of my life. Dad facilitated those relationships. My uncle continued after he died. Now I'm 27 and stay in touch with them. We're not very close, but I do appreciate their presence in my life. They were even invited to my engagement party last year. This brings me to the core issue. My grandparents were hosting a family party for a birthday. They invited me and I went. My mother and her husband were there, and so were their children. My mother's husband approached me about getting engaged and wanted to know why they weren't invited as my family. I told him that wasn't the correct topic for the party, but he should know why. I started to walk away. He said he wanted to be the one to walk me down the aisle at my wedding and wanted to know if I would allow him that honor because he always considered me a daughter. He wanted to show me he could be a better dad than I ever had. I lost my temper with his choice of words, and everyone heard me say he wouldn't be walking me down any aisle and that he wasn't good enough to be my dad. I called him pathetic for hating on the man who gave me a good life when his wife didn't give a crap. He became angry and told me I should be more respectful. I decided to leave, and a few hours later, I got a text from one of my mother's siblings saying I shouldn't have humiliated him so publicly. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your mother's husband has no right to try and insert himself into your life like that and think that they can turn up to your wedding to play happy families. Who does he think he is coming down on your father when he knew his wife had abandoned you? Good luck to him. What makes him so sure she won't decide one day to run out on him and stick him with their 3 kids? You are perfectly justified to be angry and have no contact with them, and they don't get a right to tell you how to live your life. I'm confused by the cognitive dissonance. Maybe your mum's husband doesn't know she had custody and refused to use it, and didn't pay child support. It looks like he was told that your dad screwed her over in court to get full custody and poisoned your mind against her, and no one in your mum's family has actually corrected the narrative. Yeah, she probably gave him the "it's the dad's fault he's keeping me from my babies" song and dance, and he believed it. That's why he's making those comments about your dad. I'm sure he'd believe anything to not make her the villain, even if it means throwing a child's deceased father under the bus. Clearly, he will go to those lengths to not blame her. I guarantee mother's husband was trying to ambush or shame OP in a public situation where he didn't believe OP would dare to say no, as is OP's perfect right. He overstepped boundaries by trying to insert himself into your life in such a significant way. It's not your responsibility to cater to his feelings or desires, particularly when they conflict with your comfort and values. Don't let anyone pressure you into accepting a role or relationship you're uncomfortable with. I hope you have a fantastic wedding and marriage without them in the picture. I, 34 female, have wanted a Porsche SUV since I was a girl. My husband, 36, and I do very well for ourselves. We earn a little over $150,000 each, so our combined household income is over $300,000. Unlike my partner, I grew up poor from absent, uneducated migrant parents. I worked hard with little support, put myself through school, and climbed the career ladder. When I was younger, my best friend had the life I was so envious of: loving parents, a warm home, and security. I aspired to be like her mum, a gorgeous woman who openly loved her kids and was active in their lives. She also drove a Porsche, as did many other wealthy soccer mums. It became the thing I wanted to have since, the made-it item. I'm not a materialistic person. I do not own or care for luxury brands. I don't gamble. My dad continuously lost the family savings, do drugs, or have money pit hobbies. I currently drive a 1999 Toyota that refuses to die, while my husband drives a sports car he brought for around $70,000 before we met. When we married, I brought about $60,000 more into the relationship. Our finances are completely combined, and we're lucky we don't need to think or worry about finances. Besides our home, which is fully offset, we have no other debts. We're expecting our first child and looking into buying an SUV and replacing my death trap. He's a car person and I'm not. I want to buy a Porsche while he's firmly against it, despite knowing my reasons. These are his reasons. 1. You're paying for the brand. I know. 2. Other cars in that price range offer way more features. 3. It doesn't even compare to what's on the market in terms of tech, safety and inclusions. 4. It doesn't have a lot of room or boot space. 5. It doesn't offer a comfortable driving experience. There are more reasons, but those are the main ones. He's happy to support us in buying a car within that price range, his preference being a Volvo or Lexus. I understand his reasons are valid and know my desire for this car is emotionally driven. I don't even care if it's second-hand, but he's also strongly against this. I deserve this one materialistic thing my heart wants and that I've worked hard to be in a position to afford. So before I potentially do something irreversibly, am I the idiot if I put my foot down telling him I'm buying this car and go to the dealership and buy it myself without his agreement? I edited to add that it would be an SUV, ideally the Cayenne, but I would be happy if it was the Macan. As a car guy, I'll say you are the idiot. You're pretty open about this just being something you want to be like a friend's mom you once knew. That's not a great argument to buy any luxury item, let alone a Porsche. Whatever price you've seen on the website isn't even close to the end price you'll get to once you spec out the car and nobody buys the base model. It's going to depreciate so much harder off the lot, and when the new wears off and things start failing out of warranty, you'll both have to deal with the consequences. He's trying to give you options, and your logic of, I want it because I want it, doesn't ring true to me on this large of a purchase. It's not a you purchase when it's this big, it involves you both. I make over $150,000 and drive a VW. Yeah, I want a Porsche, but it's not smart. Maybe at 50 plus. By the way, check the insurance price on the car. It will come as a shock. And the cost of servicing it? And they are expecting? Like, hello? Kids are going to get that messy. And if they get sick, imagine cleaning up throw-up or diarrhea. Sounds like someone isn't really thinking things through. Honey, I hear you want it. You've worked hard and can afford it. If it's important to you and meets your growing family's needs, explain it to your husband. But don't go buy one on a whim. My sister got married this past weekend. For context, I'm 19 male, dating my girlfriend Emmy, 19, for 8 months now. Emmy was invited to the wedding despite the fact my sister doesn't like her because she would rather me be with an ex-fling of mine. My ex-fling, Anna, 21 female, is the sister of my best friend Josh, 19 male. I don't have any contact with Anna and my best friend and I have set boundaries regarding all that. Anna has also made my girlfriend feel uncomfortable on purpose many times, to the point Josh called out his own sister multiple times. We also have 4 other friends in the friend group, all of similar ages, 19 to 20 years old, and all of us college students. My sister knows all of them but isn't close to any of them. Anyway, my sister prefers Anna over Emmy because she considers Anna to be prettier and classier. I never entertained her thoughts and always put firm boundaries that were only sometimes respected. For that reason, she decided to invite my entire friend group to the wedding as a justification to also invite Anna. I told her I was uncomfortable with that and that she didn't have to invite my friends to her wedding. We had back and forth arguments, ending with a "my wedding, my rules," so I shut my mouth. The wedding came, etc. Since my friends are college students, most of them are either unemployed or have part-time jobs at best, so they don't make much. They ended up giving her a collective gift of silverware, which cost around $200. They also gave them another $300 in cash. That's all they could afford collectively for the reasons previously mentioned. My sister is now throwing a tantrum about how cheap my friends are, how the silverware wasn't even that expensive, and how they should be ashamed for being so cheap and that when you're invited to a wedding, you're supposed to give a great expensive gift because being cheap is disrespectful to the couple who invited you to their wedding. I told her that she was not entitled to a nice or expensive gift in this scenario. She invited my entire friend group out of spite only so she could justify inviting Anna despite my boundaries. She knew my friend group consisted of broke college students, so she had no right to expect much. Now her husband and my parents blame me for being an idiot, for not calling out my cheap friends, and for not knowing wedding etiquette. Not the idiot, OP. Your sister is really a bit of a twit. Your friends were generous, especially given their status as students. In this culture, expensive wedding gifts are not the price of attendance. One assumes that an invitation is a sign of friendship rather than greed. Apparently, your sister has her own unique motives. Her wedding, her guest list. Her guest list and their gifts are her problem, not yours. Unless the invitation included a minimum entry or gift value amount, your sister should be grateful for any gifts she receives. That's the classy thing to do. Unless a minimum entry or gift value amount was included on the invitation, which would be tacky in its own way, wouldn't it? Can you imagine? Please don't bother showing up unless you spend at least X on a wedding gift. We also accept cash, check or PayPal. Our PayPal address for the wedding is Y. Payment by installments can be discussed. They aren't cheap guests. $500 is still a lot of money, especially for broke college students. Also, they weren't close to your sister or the groom, so why should they spend a lot of money on them? However, you are the idiot for assuming she only invited your friend group because of Anna. I don't see any reason for that in your story, only that your sister likes Anna more. If she was friends with her, she could have just invited her. Her wedding, her rules. I love camping and hiking on the weekends. My wife always hated it and hardly went. One of my children doesn't like it either, but to my happiness, my other children, Emma, 25 female, and Mike, 28 male, love it and we do it several times a year. Mike has been with Jenny, 26 female, for 1 year-ish, and she has some mobility issues. She can walk, but not long distances. She's a kind and good girl. We have a great relationship, and because of that, my wife and I invited her to go to the beach with the rest of the family. I wanted to go to this beach because of a nearby trail that led to a wonderful beach, and on the second day of the trip, 7 days, I announced that I would make this trail, and Emma agreed to go along. Her boyfriend did too, and I invited Mike to go. Later that day, he pulled me aside and asked if we could actually go to another beach accessible by car so Jenny could go too. I said I didn't want to because I wanted to do the trail and see this beach, but we could do that on another day, but the next day would be this trail. Mike said that Jenny was feeling left out of not being able to participate as my daughter was also taking her boyfriend and she would be left out due to her physical limitations. I pointed out that 4 people besides her weren't going on this hike either, and I'm not refusing to do that, but that tomorrow I had other plans. He said that I should understand her situation and not force a situation in which she's clearly being excluded by physical limitations, and that if that were the case, he wouldn't go either. I agreed and said okay. The next day, by a miracle, my other son wanted to go, and the 4 of us went on this trail. My son barely talked to me properly the whole trip, Jenny too, and when I suggested we go to another beach by car, he said I had some nerve to suggest that after all. My wife and the rest of the family have decided to stay out of this, but I'm at a loss. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your son and his girlfriend can spend some time together, it's not a big deal. This is 1 day on your trip. It's not like you've designed the entire trip to exclude her. This is going to be life for your son and his girlfriend. People are going to want to do things she's not capable of doing. Them having to spend the day together isn't the biggest deal. I disagree. OP, you are the idiot. You're the one who invited her on the trip, then spent a whole day doing something she couldn't join in on, also without discussing it before the trip. You said no to him because you wanted to hike, but I kind of feel like a family trip should be about what everyone wants to do. Unless I'm misunderstanding, you could have driven everyone to that beach, then went off for the hike with whoever wanted to join. That way she gets to see the beach and you get your walk with whoever chooses to join. Your son was trying to include his girlfriend and you just flat out said no. It's a 7-day trip. Do they all have to do everything together all week? She wasn't able to join in one thing that about half of them were doing. The entire trip doesn't need to revolve around one person. She wasn't excluded at all. There were other people staying back as well, not only Jenny. In all reality, they both sound like kids throwing tantrums because they didn't get their way. My wife and I are in our mid-30s and we met in our 20s. One of the main things that really made me like her was that she kept working for what she wanted and wasn't really dependent on anyone. So for some context, I come from money on my dad's side. My mom is middle class but is not doing as well as my father and they aren't married. My wife and I have one child, a toddler, and she's pregnant with our second. While we both work, our daughter has been with my mom since she retired and my wife pays my mother to watch her. The problem is that she wants to be a stay-at-home mom. I told her no as I wasn't supporting that. She asked why. I said I preferred 2 working parents and it gives us more income. She said I could support it on my own, which I could. I still told her no. She asked again and said she wanted to be one of those Instagram moms and do more for the kids. I told her I would consider it. She's been bugging me about it. I told her if she wanted to do part-time she could, but she would have to take on more house chores. She said no, as she would still be working on Instagram. I told her Instagram will pay less than $5 an hour at first, so that's not a real job. She's been crying and bugging me about it for a while. I asked one of my friends. They said they wouldn't want a financial leech either, which is kind of mean, but I can see that. So, am I the idiot? Edit. So a main question I keep getting is why only my wife pays for childcare. The answer is that she makes less money than me, and we don't split bills 50-50, so it's easier for her to just pay the cheaper bills. She only pays my mother $100, as that's all she'll take and won't take any more. She wants to be there for her 2 children, nurture them, spend quality time with them, and give them her undivided attention. Record scratch. She wants to be an Instagram mom. Screw that noise and forgive her to post your kids online. OMG, what is happening right now? The world has gone mad. I wish these Instagram TikTok moms knew how much of a bad idea it is to parade your kids online. But of course, it's never been about the kids. It's all about their own narcissism that needs to be fed. As a stay-at-home mom, absolutely not the idiot. She's not staying home because of rising daycare costs or so she could be more present in the kids' lives. She's wanting it to be an Insta-mom. What reality does she live in? Good God, that is cringe as heck. She's almost middle-aged, for God's sake.